Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey guys, it's Candace.
And it's Elena.
And you're listening to Cousins on Crime. I feel like we were just here.
Yeah, we were. We were waiting on you.
We were waiting on me.
So we are recording twice in 1 week.
Yeah.
So look at us.
How inefficient. Anyways, so we just picked a paint color for our new studio.
Yeah.
Our new recording studio. It's called Rain Washed by Sherwin Williams.
Yeah.
That is really pretty. I think that's this one, right? Is that one on the front?
Is that the same?
It looks the same.
Yeah, probably.
Or maybe it's that one.
It's the top one on the inside, that top on the left.
Yeah. That one. But I wonder what this one is. Everyone's like, what? What? Daniel told me that he hates when he loves a podcast and they do a YouTube channel, and then instead of treating it like it's still a podcast, they treat it like everybody's watching.
Okay, yeah.
Instead. Mm-hmm. So that's something to consider when we get our YouTube channel up and going and we start recording our sessions. We'll just have to make sure that we treat everyone like they're listening, because
we're going to have to pretend like there's nobody there, no cameras. We're just still talking to each other. So
exactly.
And so when we do get our YouTube going, you'll see this rain washed color.
You'll see it. It's beautiful. It's like a minty, like a light minty, greeny blue.
Yeah.
But really light.
It just makes you feel really good.
Yeah, makes you feel good.
Okay.
So we're excited for that. They've got the form boards up for my house. So I can actually see the outline where our studio is going to be.
Okay.
Which is so cool.
Yep.
It's not just a bunch of talk. It's actually happening. Anyways.
That one stressful part is all done. Now
one stressful part.
Yeah.
The whole thing was stressful.
Well, I mean that whole part I'm saying as one was stressful. Now we're on to the next chapter.
Right. Yeah.
Actually building it. And there's going to be things that comes along.
This is going to be stressful too. I know. But yeah, excited.
Yeah.
We're going to have our own space. We're not going to have people walking in and out of our space.
I know.
Like they act like they live here or something.
Right.
This is our kitchen table.
The audacity.
I know. You got Sam over here.
Snoring.
Thinks that he rules the roost.
Yeah.
Anyways, I gotta get rid of these people. All right. Well, enough of that. I'm just gonna get into my case. And our story today takes place in Indonesia.
Oh.
In 2016.
Okay.
Ringing a bell at all? No?
No.
Well, it's a tale of jealousy and betrayal, narcissism and psychopathy, and the misfortune of one woman to have crossed paths with one such individual who was all of these things.
Oh, no.
So our victim today is a beautiful woman named Wayan Mirna Salihin. I hope I'm saying that right. I know I'm not, but I'm trying. She went by Mirna. She was born March 30th, 1988 in Jakarta, Indonesia, and was a very strong-willed child growing up. If you watched the Netflix documentary that covers this case. You might remember the interview with her dad because he's very memorable, and you can see exactly where she got this feistiness from.
Oh, okay.
I actually had never heard about this case until I was watching the Karen Reed trial, as I do. And the defense rested today, by the way. Anyway, I won't get into it.
I thought we were going to talk about it today, but...
Well, I talked about it on my story. So if you want more, well, you can't, because by the time this airs, the stories will be long gone. So when I was watching the trial, this case popped up. And I was like, what? I'd never heard of it. But apparently there's a Netflix documentary. I was able to watch most of it.
Okay.
And it paints a really different picture than most reporting on it. So I'm curious to know if you guys have seen it. So anyway, let's get back to the case and we can talk about it after. So her dad, Eddie, said that he and Mirna would debate. Like she was like his little sparring partner. He gave it to her and she gave it right back.
Oh, wow.
Mirna had a twin sister named Sandy, and they were raised in an affluent neighborhood in Indonesia. She may have looked like a porcelain doll.
Oh. But
she loved to play soccer, and she would actually get into scraps on the field with the boys. But she was also very kind, too, which is why when her old friend Jessica Wongso reached out to her to say she'd be in town and wanted to meet up, she obliged. You see, Mirna and Jessica hadn't seen each other in a while due to a falling out a couple of years before. Aww. So she was kind of like, okay, I'll be nice.
Yeah.
So the two women met in Sydney, Australia at Billy Blue Design College, where they both pursued graphic design. And they were pretty good friends from the start. They hit it off right away and through the duration of their schooling there. After graduation, Jessica stayed in Australia, but Mirna returned home to settle down in Indonesia. She was in a serious relationship, and she was going to get married to this guy. And so the two stayed in touch over the years, casually. And when Mirna went back to Sydney for a holiday, she said, hey, let's get together, because they hadn't seen each other in a while. And it was this meeting where things began to sour for the friends.
Okay.
They had dinner one night, and Jessica began to complain about this guy she'd been dating there in Sydney. And Mirna, as she's listening, she's wondering, why would you date this guy?
Right. Just give it up.
So her being the blunt friend that she was like, get rid of him. Like, break up with him. The end.
Yeah.
Well, Jessica didn't like that at all.
She got offended.
Yeah, she got really mad.
What?
She didn't think that Mirna needed to be up in her business. Her business. Sorry, I'm still thinking about Ludacris. Now, after a couple of years, I think things had cooled off between the two. They weren't besties anymore, but they weren't enemies. I think just with the space and the distance and kind of checking in with each other every once in a while, it was casual. But according to Myrna's husband, Arif, Mirna was a little hesitant to meet with Jessica on this occasion. So now Jessica has come to visit in Indonesia, and she wants to see Mirna. Myrna's like, just really don't want to go there.
You had this level of comfortability where you thought you could talk to your friend a certain way, and now it's like,
well, I can't say anything.
How do I act?
Exactly.
Can't be myself.
Yes. While she was reluctant to see Jessica, Mirna was like, look, she doesn't live here. She's going to be in town for just a little bit. I'll have to tolerate her just this one time, and then she can piss back off to Australia, and I can either talk to her or not. I can phase her out of my life. So Mirna arranged to meet Jessica and another friend, Hani, at Café Olivier. It was an upscale cafe bar, which cafe and a bar. Yes, please. It was located in a high-end shopping center in Jakarta. On the Netflix documentary, they actually said you had to be dressed nice to go there. So I don't go there. I can't go there.
It's like there are places.
It's not my coffee shop, right?
Yeah. Well, no, there's places in Fort Worth that like you can't wear flip flops, like
right. Oh, like a state, like Ruth's Chris or something. Yeah. Never been there either. Jessica got there before her other friends, so she went ahead and got a table, ordered some drinks, but she was waiting for quite a while. She was fidgeting in her seat, nervously awaiting the two girls that she hadn't seen in a while because Hani had also gone to school with them.
Okay.
So she's rearranging her shopping bags, and then her two friends walk in and they see her sitting at a table by herself. So they come over, they all exchange pleasantries. They're smiling. And Jessica was like, I went ahead and ordered you your favorite Vietnamese iced coffee because Mirna loved coffee.
Oh, okay.
She wanted to someday open her own coffee shop. She just loved it. And the Vietnamese iced coffee was her favorite. So Jessica had one waiting for her.
Okay. Well, that's thoughtful.
Yeah, it was thoughtful. So she smiled and graciously took a sip of her now watered down iced coffee because it'd been sitting there for like an hour. It wasn't great, but she, engaged in the conversation and just kind of moved on. But a minute later, Mirna pressed her fingertips to the side of her head. Was this a sudden onset of a headache? She wasn't sure, but it was getting worse and worse by the second. Before anyone else could take note of that Mirna was even having symptoms of like a headache or whatever it was, she threw her head back and began convulsing right there at the table.
What?
Patrons at the cafe lifted out of their seats and gasped, feeling shocked and helpless, really. They didn't know how to help her, what was going on. Myrna's friends stood back from the table as waitstaff rushed to Mirna's side, who was now on the floor foaming at the mouth. Hani was in tears and in disbelief because Mirna was fine 1 minute and in distress almost in the blink of an eye.
Whoa.
Meanwhile, Jessica was standing back almost motionless and emotionless.
Uh-oh.
In fact, one of the cafe staff kept looking at Jessica like, why is she just standing there? Why isn't she like trying to help?
She's so calm for this.
You have these two friends here and it's night and day, their reactions. And I know we always talk about like you never know how you're going to react, but it definitely made people take note.
Yeah.
I mean, the scene was absolute chaos. Yet here was Jessica looking on like she was watching a TV show or something.
Huh.
Well, Jessica must have noticed that the cafe's attendant was watching her. And that's when Jessica shouted, "What did you put in her drink?" The lady was like, What is she talking about? As far as anyone knew, this woman was having an unprovoked medical emergency. But now, with this accusation that something was in her drink...
What makes you just automatically go there?
Well, I know. Why would you think that?
Mm-hmm.
So the lady takes this glass of iced coffee and took it to the back of the kitchen. She wasn't exactly sure what she was doing with this glass, but if there was something in the glass, she didn't want anyone else exposed to it or picking it up accidentally and drinking it. She leaned over and smelled the drink, and then she tasted it, and it was gross, and she spit it out. I think that's so funny that she tasted it.
Oh, okay. I have a funny story about that.
Go on.
We were at a restaurant one time and Chris ordered sweet tea and it tasted horrible. And he told the waitress, he's like, "This is terrible. I need something else to drink. Just bring me water." And she picked up that drink and tasted it. And she was like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. That is terrible."
That is hilarious. I love that she did it right there at the table.
Yeah.
I sent back chicken once. I was like, yeah, this chicken is really like rubbery.
Uh-oh.
And he took it to the back and he came back out and he was like, yeah, I tasted that chicken and it was Kennedy remembers this story. And he's like, I tasted it and you were so right. It was really bad. We'll get you another one.
People.
I mean, listen, it's not for me, but if that's your thing. But so this lady takes a sip of it and she's like, oh, that is terrible. Wow. And it smelled bad and it tasted bad. She didn't swallow it. She spit it right out.
Okay. It's just crazy to me that she just thought in that moment to do that.
I know. Especially since somebody was in there like having this reaction to it, to whatever it was.
Anyway, carry on.
So she covered the glass with plastic and left it there and went to go speak with the barista who made the coffee.
Oh.
The barista explained that he started his shift. He had just started his shift at 4 p.m. It was like after 5. He made the iced coffee as per usual, placed it on the tray for the runner to take to the intended table. There was nothing really out of the ordinary. When he went to the back of the restaurant to look at this coffee, from the moment he laid eyes on it, he thought it looked strange because the color was more of like an orangey color.
Oh,
like almost a turmeric was in it or something.
Oh.
And he was like, that doesn't look like what I made.
Coffee,
yeah, it doesn't look like that. So he smelled it and he said it smelled like glue or like some other chemical. And it was strong enough to scare him a little bit. Like he went and like wiped his nose off.
Like he's like, whatever's in there, I don't want it.
Whatever's in there, that's bad. So he goes looking through all of his things. He's looking through the milk. He's digging in the coffee beans. He's holding the glasses up to the light to see if was there a contaminant in this coffee that he served. He had no idea what he was really looking for, but he needed to make sure he wasn't responsible for what was going on.
Absolutely.
As wait staff were doing all of this in the kitchen, emergency services had arrived to rush Mirna to the hospital. And on their way out the door, someone told them that she may have been exposed to something that she drank. They heard Jessica yelling at the wait staff about something being in the drink. You've got nearby tables. Oh, and by the way, this cafe was full.
Oh, wow.
It was after 5.
Wow.
It was a cafe and coffee, and it was completely full of people. So you had multiple people who heard this. Witnesses began talking about how the onset of Mirna's symptoms was very sudden and kind of suspicious.
Yeah, I'd say.
Which is why police were called to the hospital to meet them there. Doctors and nurses did everything they could to save Mirna, but her organs had already begun to fail.
Oh.
And she was gone.
Wow.
Yeah. Mirna's family, who joined Hani and Jessica at the hospital, were absolutely devastated and confused. I mean, I think there is a bit of confusion.
Absolutely.
In these like when people lose their loved one, they're just like, how?
It doesn't make sense.
I just saw them. I just spoke with them. Like, what are you telling me? They're gone?
Yeah.
Eddie, Mirna's dad, in his grief, pleaded with his daughter's friends to explain what had happened at the cafe. Like, what in the world? You know, someone didn't come in and shoot up the place. Like, she just collapsed. They didn't know that the police had arrived and had questions of their own. A while later, Mirna's body was undergoing preparations to be released to her family. And her family trembled as they made arrangements to transport her to the funeral home. And this is about the time they were informed that the police were there and they believed that someone did this to their daughter intentionally.
Well, I mean, in order to make sense of it, that's rational, I would think.
Right. And so they asked the family if they could do an autopsy.
Oh.
Her mother was 100% against it.
Oh.
I mean, cultural.
Okay.
It's her precious daughter as well. And she doesn't want anyone touching her, let alone cutting her open.
Aww.
But the police told them that if you don't let us do this now, you'll never know what happened to her. Yeah. You'll just always wonder. It'll just always be a question. So
that's pretty amazing that the police were pushing.
Right.
Instead of the family saying, no, I want this, and the other way around.
Yeah. So with that, her family agreed to let them take tissue samples.
Okay.
So not a full dissection, not a full autopsy, but they did agree to letting them take tissue samples from her stomach. At this, what investigators call a partial autopsy, the medical examiner found cyanide in Mirna's body, and it became clear that all her symptoms were indicative of cyanide poisoning.
Oh.
According to the New York State Department of Health website, cyanide was used in World War I as a chemical weapon and gas. And if you recall, we covered the Tylenol murders in Chicago.
That's right.
Which we'll link in the show notes, where cyanide was used to poison unsuspecting people who were taking the medication. I just saw that Netflix came out with a documentary on...
I did see that too.
Yeah. Well, Cousins on Crime covered it first. I'm just saying.
Yeah, come on now.
Go listen to our episode. I'll link it in the show notes. Anyway, something else interesting. Cyanides are actually naturally produced in our environment.
Mm-hmm.
They're in some of the foods that we eat, like spinach, almonds, lima beans, just to name a few, and in low levels, of course. If you consume low levels of cyanide in foods, or if you're exposed to like car exhaust or cigarette smoke, your body can take that cyanide and turn it into thiocyanate, which can be excreted from the body, like in your urine. However, if a large amount of cyanide is introduced into your body cannot convert that cyanide into thiocyanate in time. So it overwhelms the system and starts depriving your cells of oxygen real fast. The cells in your heart, lungs, brain start to starve and die. And well, without those organs, you die.
Right.
The death is very painful. A person will gasp for air. They'll be confused as to what's happening because it comes on so fast.
Oh.
And because of the dying cells in their brain, they'll have a splitting headache before having seizures or losing consciousness. Remember when we talked about the Tylenol murders, the mom, the dad and the daughter came home and the mom was like, oh, I just don't feel good. And then she just suddenly collapsed.
Right.
So it's this wave of like, oh, it's a headache, but then it just takes you down. And Mirna suffered a painful death. It may have been over quickly, but it was not nice.
She didn't know what hit her.
No, she didn't.
That's horrifying.
Now that the police have definitive proof that Mirna was poisoned, they wanted to know how this could happen in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Like, how does this happen? How? They were like, either this poor woman was the unluckiest person at this cafe who just happened to drink out of this one particular glass
that was made.
Right. Or something was done to the coffee after it was served, perhaps by someone at the table. Maybe someone who ordered it. Investigators spoke with the waitstaff and pressed them about the timeline of events and pulled all the CCTV footage from the 9 cameras distributed around and around the cafe.
Cameras. Okay, they're bound to find something.
They questioned Jessica and Hani, the 2 friends that were with her at the table, when she began to get sick suddenly. And police had already been tipped off about Jessica.
Okay.
So people were saying, she doesn't look to be upset.
Yeah,
she seems unbothered.
Acting odd, yeah.
Right. She was unbothered at the hospital. She was unbothered while this was going on in the cafe. And now they've met her themselves and they're asking her questions and something was not right with her. When they would ask her a simple question like, what did you have to drink? Did you eat anything? She just would look away and act like she didn't either didn't hear the question or would change the subject or, I mean, it was very weird. She smiled a lot. She giggled. It was strange. They were like, something's not right with you, girl. The more they learned about Jessica, the more concerned they were that she did this to her friend. Police learned from Mirna's husband that Mirna was reluctant to meet with Jessica due to that falling out that they had a couple years ago. So they learned about that little thing. And Mirna's parents had always thought Jessica was a bit strange. The first time Jessica met Mirna's family, she came over and she gave her mom this hug, like wouldn't let her go. And she was like, oh, okay. Like,
she's just a hugger.
I know. It was their first time meeting, and I don't know. She just thought it was strange. And then later on, they caught Jessica going through Mirna's parents' room.
What?
She was in Mirna's parents' room. Why?
Yeah, you don't go into...
And they were like, oh, what are you doing in here?
Well, that's weird.
That happens in a Lifetime movie, and you're like,
right.
No one would ever do that. That's too weird.
It is.
But no, she did it. Eddie, Mirna's dad, was also taken aback by Jessica's behavior at the hospital. Like I said, he was asking her and Hani, like, what happened? And Jessica was just like, oh, my stomach hurts, and would like avoid him, like walk down the hall. And he could see that she was fine. He was like, why is she acting this way? I just want to know. So that really was odd to him.
Yeah.
In speaking with the authorities in Australia, where Jessica lived, Indonesian police learned that Jessica had been kind of unraveling after the last hangout with Mirna. She had ran her car into a nursing home.
What?
That's right. She nearly plowed into one of the rooms that the elderly were living in.
What is wrong with her?
Narrowly missing it. Yeah. The Aussies thought she had been drinking because no sober person or no person in their right mind would just drive their car into a building.
Right. Sounds like she's not in her right mind.
Exactly. And because Mirna and Jessica were not on the best of terms, Jessica wasn't invited to Myrna's wedding in Bali.
Oh.
Which Jessica felt was a huge snub.
Well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was very hurt by that. And shortly thereafter, Jessica was fired from her job. I don't know why, but pick a reason.
I mean, well, and maybe
pick any reason.
Maybe the reason she wasn't getting along with her boyfriend was really because of herself.
Yeah. Sounds like a her problem.
Yeah.
To me. And some think that Jessica losing her job was like the last straw. Like she seemed to have nothing and Mirna seemed to have everything.
Everything. She had it all.
Mm-hmm. January 30th, just 3 weeks after Myrna's death, police went to Jessica's hotel with a warrant to search the premises. And she was packed. She was ready to go back to Australia.
I bet she was.
Yeah, they were glad that they caught her. They searched her purse and all its contents, her bags, her luggage. And while there aren't any reports of them finding anything at that time, they did arrest her for premeditated murder.
Good. Just in the nick of time.
Yeah. I'm unsure what the burden of proof is
okay.
in Indonesia, but I guess they felt that they had enough circumstantial evidence to try her.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on chumbacasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at chumbacasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's chumbacasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Now, the trial began June 15th, 2016. Talk about a speedy trial.
Yeah.
I mean, Mirna died in January.
Yeah.
And here we are in June, and someone's being tried for her murder. So,
yeah,
let's get her done.
That is fast.
On the first day, the entertainment value of this court proceeding was evident in the line of the people trying to squeeze their way into the courthouse. The team of prosecutors on this case had never seen anything like this before and remarked that it seemed more like a reality show rather than a criminal court proceeding. The local media had latched on to this case in a way that was unlike anything that most of the country had ever seen before. And Jessica didn't help herself either because she was giving interviews.
Oh, she was
waving to the cameras.
Loving that attention.
Oh, yeah. That, she would walk from here into the courthouse and they would stick a microphone in her face and say, "Did you poison your friend?" And she would go, like, just strange.
Ew.
Yeah. So the court of public opinion was already very much like, you're guilty. But the prosecutors would have to convince a judge that Jessica poisoned her friend and planned it ahead of time. At trial, the Indonesian court alleged that Jennifer poisoned her friend by putting cyanide in her iced coffee because she was jealous of Mirna. She was beautiful. She had just gotten married. She was happy. Her life was coming together in a way that Jessica could only envy.
Right.
Prosecutors outlined in detail the diabolical actions of Jessica Wongso the day of January 6th, 2016. And remember, they had all that CCTV footage.
Yeah.
You thought I was just going to gloss over that?
I know. Come on.
Okay.
I've been waiting.
I'm going to walk you through it. Jessica arrived at Café Olivier in Jakarta around 3:30 p.m. Just a couple minutes later, she's seen leaving. Jessica then returns at 4:14 with a bunch of shopping bags.
Okay.
I say a bunch. It was like, I don't know, four or five.
Okay.
3 to 5. Anyways, she approaches the counter and orders drinks, and the waitress shows her to her table. The receipt showed that she ordered 2 cocktails, an old-fashioned, some other cocktail, and a Vietnamese iced coffee.
Okay.
While waiting for her friends, Jessica can be seen, as I said earlier, fidgeting in her seat. She moved from the chair that she was sitting in that was directly in front of a camera, like in sight, to the other side of the table where she couldn't really be seen as clearly. But
as if she knew what angle?
So maybe. But there was another camera on the other side of the restaurant.
Okay.
That you could see her, but she was far off in the distance, but they did zoom in.
Okay.
And she can be seen arranging her shopping bags on the table. And when I say shopping bags, I don't mean like plastic, like flaccid bags. I mean like paper, like nice paper shopping bags that stand upright on the table. So she had stood them upright on the table.
Okay.
In front of the iced coffee.
Okay. Mm-hmm. She's slick, or thinks so anyways.
Right. So she's blocking the iced coffee from view, and prosecutors are alleging that this is when she poisoned Mirna's drink.
Uh-huh.
So she moves the shopping bags. Finally, at 5:16, this is an hour later, Jessica's friends, Hani and Mirna, arrive.
Okay.
So they had this group text that they were kind of being like, "Hey, I'm here," whatever. So Jessica said she had already ordered drinks, so just come straight to the table.
Oh, okay.
So the girls see her, they come in, she'd already ordered drinks, and they're like, "Oh, why?" Anyway, Mirna took a sip of her iced coffee, and not 2 minutes later, she put both hands on her head. You can see her in the CCTV. It's like she's grabbing her head, like, and then she lifts her head back and just immediately begins convulsing.
Oh, my Lord.
And I described how Jessica was standing a little further back. You can see this. You can see the chaos and everybody running towards the table. And she's just standing there like she's, I don't know, waiting for popcorn to pop in the microwave. She's just standing there like completely nothing is going on.
Not even like, oh, my plan has worked.
I'll
like,
try
this
to
is
post
happening.
Some links to the footage in our show notes. And at one moment in the footage, people are looking at her and you can see her like put her hand over her mouth like, oh, I better look concerned. And it's so fake. It's the fakest.
Wow.
This is about the time Jessica accused the wait staff of putting something in Mirna's drink. After this unprovoked accusation is when the waiters were alerted to the iced coffee and retrieved it. And it kind of makes you wonder if Jessica had just kept her mouth shut.
Right.
If she had said nothing at all,
you would, right.
What would have happened? And we may not be talking about this case right now.
You're exactly right. I mean, she opened the door.
She opened the door. Absolutely. Now, without this CCTV footage being played in court, I'm not sure how strong the prosecution's case would have been. They had no physical evidence. It was all circumstantial. Jessica had this famous high-profile defense attorney, Otto Hasiban, who fit in with this whole sensational motif.
Oh, of course.
And he really seemed to believe in her innocence. Like, from the documentary, I got the impression that he really cared about her. Like, he got a little emotional when he talked about it. So I think he really believed her, but the defense presented a forensic pathologist to testify that the amount of cyanide reported in Mirna's toxicology at autopsy wouldn't have been enough to kill her. Okay.
Oh.
Her autopsy was 3 days later.
Yeah.
So with decomp and things like that, perhaps that's why.
And just a small tissue sample.
A small tissue sample. Now, the defense alleged that there was no trace of cyanide shortly after her death. So they're saying that toxicology was run after she died to see what was in her system at the time, and nothing was found. No cyanide was found at that point. So I'm not sure how there was no cyanide found at that point.
Right. When
she was pronounced dead, but there was 3 days later. This is what the defense is saying.
Okay.
So take it for what you will. I wasn't at the trial, so I don't know.
Gotcha.
Because a full autopsy wasn't performed, just tissue samples were taken. Another defense expert said that you can't really say how Mirna died because, like, her brain wasn't examined, her heart wasn't examined. So you can't say she didn't have a stroke. Or maybe she had this existing hole in her heart that just suddenly, took her life in an instant. He also said that if there were cyanide in the glass, the other people at the table would have been exposed to it as well. So they were not just trying to say that Jessica didn't poison Mirna. They're trying to say that Mirna wasn't poisoned at all. And we can't know the cause of her death.
Wow.
The only time Jessica showed emotion at the trial at all was when the prosecution basically called her unpretty. They described to the court how Jessica was a narcissistic psychopath and started criticizing the features on her face.
No.
Yes. I guess that's how they do it.
That's a little unprofessional, but okay.
So the prosecution brought in a quote-unquote expert, if you can call them that, saying, see, look at her face. And they put a picture of Jessica's face up and said, do you see how her eyelids sit? Like, this girl's not honest. Her eyes don't sparkle like a beautiful woman. And basically just criticizing the way she looked and saying, look at her face. Of course she's psycho.
Objection.
Sustained.
Okay, Bev.
I'm so sick of Bev. I can't even. Anyways, that would never be allowed in the U.S.
Absolutely
that would never
not.
be allowed in. It would be stricken from the record. But yeah, Jessica was emotional during this time. She could be seen wiping away tears. Not at any time.
And perhaps that's what they wanted, was just a reaction.
Right. It's very telling that you are not crying about any other thing.
Right.
About remembering the day that your friend suddenly died before your eyes, and a friend that was special to you that you hadn't seen in a while, but they're calling you not pretty and that hurts your feelers.
Yeah.
So after a 60-day trial, Jessica walked into court and sat in a lonesome chair facing the judge. The judge convicted Jessica of the premeditated murder of Mirna and sentenced her to 20 years for her crime.
Wow.
Yeah. Her attorneys announced that they'd be appealing because the verdict was unfair. They said, listen, prosecutors never were able to prove where Jessica got the cyanide and when, or that it even was physically put in the coffee. All of it was inference based on the CCTV footage and this supposed row they had. The defense argued that right there can't show premeditation.
I disagree.
For that charge. Well, the prosecution and you probably say that lifting your arm is the premeditation. That's all you need right there, is putting it in someone's drink.
I mean, to plan it so precisely that they can't even see you putting it in a drink.
Right.
That's, you planned to put those bags on the table.
And here's the thing. She arrived at like 3:30. Way early.
Right.
Way early. Then she left. Why did she leave? Was it because the girls weren't going to be there for a while and she knew that? And she was like, I'll go kill some time, do some shopping. Or did she think, I need some shopping bags?
Okay. Then
she gets there way early again.
Mm-hmm.
Surely the girls were in touch on that group chat. Surely she knew that they weren't going to be there for a while.
Right.
So she had all this planned.
Yeah.
She was, of course, regardless of where she got it, how she got it, when she got it and she put it in the drink.
Mm-hmm.
The Netflix documentary, like I said, kind of did a decent job of calling into question a lot of evidence that prosecutors presented against Jessica. And while some of the allegations by the defense can't be ignored, like methods of their investigation, collecting of evidence, all those things matter. And they pique my interest.
Right.
The lack of evidence and mistakes in the investigation are, in fact, being alleged by the defense. Like I said, I wasn't at trial.
Right.
I don't know the details of the proceedings. I don't know what the prosecution presented. But here we have the defense telling Netflix, well, they just didn't do their jobs. So, true or not, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The video footage, though, it didn't show her doing anything, but you couldn't see the coffee.
Yeah.
Because she
premeditated
her
a plan.
Other movements
Yep.
were so telling. I read this paper that came out of a university in Indonesia, actually, which I'll link in the show notes if you want to match my freak. It was drawing attention to the fact that Indonesia's evidence management and proof criteria needs some work.
Oh.
With the use of CCTV in court proceedings.
Oh, okay.
It was a really interesting read. But anyways, ultimately, the judge saw Jessica. He saw her dead eyes. He saw her unsparkly face, as the prosecution puts it. And he saw right through it. He saw her behavior, ordering this coffee, covering the coffee, putting her bags down, switching seats.
Yeah.
Playing musical chairs.
Yeah.
All
she was
these
up to something.
And all these other oddities, like things she was doing in Australia that just seemed really unhinged. And that was enough for him. Jessica tried more than once to have her conviction overturned, failing every time. Jessica served just 8 years of her 20-year sentence.
What?
Yeah. She was released on good behavior.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So how did she all of a sudden...
Good behavior.
She all of a sudden stopped having these manic episodes?
I don't know. She was a good girl in prison. She didn't kill anybody. She didn't poison anyone. She didn't get into fights.
Okay, so where is she now?
Well, she earns her livelihood by being a social media influencer.
Shut your mouth.
It sounds like a great fit for her.
Shut your mouth.
She still maintains
people follow her
innocence. Yes. She was in a recent interview, like a big interview. I can't remember what the outlet was or what channel it was on, but she has this growing fan base. I mean, they were videoing her walking around this mall, and people were coming up to her going, "Jessica, Jessica." And
what is wrong with
I
this
don't
world?
know. I don't know.
I
don't know. It's very strange. I don't know. I think people maybe they watched that documentary and like a lot of clickbait and fake news.
Okay.
Fake news.
Yeah.
People will see something and that they adopt it immediately.
Right.
Oh, come to find out. Well, this is the defense attorney saying these things. Okay.
Right.
It's kind of like this Karen Reed trial. We can see with our own eyes the prosecution witness is lying.
Yeah.
We can see with our own eyes that they're collecting blood in red Solo cups.
Girl.
None of it feels right to us, and we can see it with our own eyes. It's not just the defense saying there's a cover-up going on, or there's a frame job going on, or planting of evidence going on. Mm-hmm. It's not this hyped up thing. We can see what they're doing.
Right.
And I can see Bev up there saying things under her breath, signaling Mr. Brennan to object.
I wanted to give her the benefit of a doubt.
I did too.
I feel like in some things she's been fair, but
because that's what she wants us to think.
Yeah.
She's
exactly.
like, I need to be fair about some things so that they think I'm impartial. But we know.
She'll even say, I'm trying to be fair.
I want Miss Reed to have her right to a fair trial.
Yeah.
It's garbage.
Okay. We'll have to have a whole episode.
Oh, yeah. Because the verdict is going to be out. By the time this is released, the verdict will be out.
Yeah, true. So we're going to have to,
God willing,
discuss.
People still go to Café Olivier and sit in the same booth and order the same Vietnamese iced coffee.
Like
that killed Mirna.
Like to honor her?
I'm not sure what it does for them or anyone else, but you know what?
People are so weird.
To each their own. I don't know if they're going to have, pour one out for her, or if they're going to pay their respects, or if they're going because they're like, this is where someone died. Oh yeah.
I'm confused.
Yeah. Mirna was a beautiful porcelain doll. I mean, she had her whole life ahead of her. She came from a good family that loved her. She was a new bride.
Aww.
And her husband had his bride ripped away before they could even truly begin their lives together.
Oh, it's so sad.
They had married in Bali just weeks before Myrna's death, and they were so excited to start a family.
Yeah.
Myrna's sister Sandy told Netflix that when her sister was buried, she had a dream of her that night. Sandy said Mirna was sitting there very sad in her dream, and she just looked sad, like she couldn't believe that she wasn't going to be able to live the rest of her life and open that coffee shop and be a mother and experience all the things like growing old and retiring. And the way she died, drinking her favorite iced coffee, makes it all the more painful that she's not here.
That is chilling.
It is. And that's all I got for you.
Wow. Well, you told the story very well. I felt like I was there.
Okay.
You gotta, like, I've said it before, you have to be careful who you are friends with, but like, how do you?
But the thing is, Lena, if someone, this is the thing, you would take a sip to be nice.
Yes.
You would. Anyone would.
Yes. You're exactly right.
Anyone would. That's the thing about it, is sometimes you will cross paths with someone diabolical, so diabolical that they will
come on vacation to a different country.
Right.
Like, she didn't have to come there, and
yeah, it's like she just wanted to take her down. She just couldn't stand that her friend, who she was not really friends with anymore, was happy without her in her life.
Just stay away.
Yeah.
Get some new
Very
friends.
sad.
Wow.
And if you have watched the documentary or if you've seen anything about this case, Jessica is not all there. There was a psychologist who testified and said that she was a very intelligent, but just very abnormal. Like, lacked, like a true psychopath. Truly a psychopath. Like, just thought the whole thing was funny, thought it was weird.
But like going through school and stuff, like when did it flip?
Well, that's the thing, is when someone is so even keel, they're just looked at like, oh, they're laid back. She had this in her the whole time, though. It was just someone had to piss her off enough. Someone had to.
It's like everything was stacked up against her, and it just, that the pressure was on, and she exploded.
It was the fight. It was the fact that, she was newly married. She got married in this beautiful ceremony in Bali, and she wasn't invited to it.
Right.
And then she loses her job. And meanwhile, Mirna's over there being beautiful and happy in Indonesia, and she just couldn't stand it. So she's like, and she took it out on her. I'm curious. I am so curious to know what you guys think of this case, because in the interest of being impartial, the prosecution didn't have sufficient evidence. They really didn't. I mean, they really didn't have anything to prove.
Yeah.
All they had was that CCTV and the odd behaviors and this speculation and.
Yeah, and if it's one of those things, if you're going to compare it to Karen Reed's trial,
right,
and what the prosecution has brought to the table, do you believe it or not?
Right. Well, the prosecution, to me, in Karen Reed trial has failed. I agree. The one expert they presented, the one lab test or field test they did with blue paint on the arm. That is, my 3-year-olds put blue paint on their arm. That's what he looked like, a 3-year-old.
But that's what I'm saying. Are you going to believe that?
Yeah.
Just like you're going to believe a video of what you can't really see with your own eyes. Like, yeah, it's a case of what are you going to believe?
And it's like this, it's an instinct that we have, like you say, discernment, where you see something happening, and while it may not be abnormal to most people, you can see through the motions, and past it, there's an intention. Yeah. And the judge saw that. And I personally think she did it just because of watching all that CCTV footage. Yeah. It definitely looks like she's doing something to that coffee. Why would you order a coffee an hour ahead? Let it sit there, and it just makes no sense. No. And in the video, you can't see the cocktails she ordered. So where were they? Did she toss them out? Did she drink?
She didn't order a drink for the other friend?
So she ordered 2 cocktails and the iced coffee.
Okay.
But you can't see, I didn't see Maybe I was just overlooking it.
Or maybe they just brought the coffee out first and then...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Perhaps. But anyway, I would love for you guys to comment on our Instagram and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Like, do you think she did it? If you don't think she did it, I would love to know that too.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Talk to us.
Comment below. Subscribe.
Well, that was great. Let's do it again sometime.
Let's do it. Bye guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Cousins on Crime. Get connected with us by becoming a free member on our Patreon. Or for just $5 a month, you'll have access to bonus episodes, discussion groups, and much more. If you can't afford $5 a month, we get it. Inflation, am I right? Please consider leaving us a positive review and rating wherever you listen.
And don't forget merch. Support our podcast and show the love by sporting t-shirts with our latest designs, or grab an evidence bag to keep the chain of custody for all your valuables. Don't forget to follow our show on your favorite streaming app so you never miss an episode, and get photos and updates on our Instagram at Cousins on Crime Podcast or our Cousins on Crime Facebook page. Have a case suggestion? Email us at cousinsoncrime@gmail.com.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.